Good morning, Beaumont. In the Fool Around and Find Out segment, Mahmoud Kahlil, a Palestinian activist here to undermine America. He was formerly a student at Columbia University, where he apparently learned nothing. He was detained by immigration authorities over the weekend because he appears to have violated explicit federal immigration law. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrested him, even though permanent resident with a green card. The agencies originally told Kahlil that his student visa was being revoked, and that's according to the Associated Press. His attorney, Amy Greer, said she spoke with agents over the phone during the arrest and said their client had a green card. The agent told her that the green card was being revoked instead. On Sunday, in a post on social media platform X, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced federal government will be revoking the visas or green cards of all Jew haters and Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security said that Kahlil was arrested due to Donald Trump's executive order prohibiting anti-Semitism because he led activities aligned to Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization. On Monday, however, the federal judge in New York blocked his deportation. Judge Jesse Furman said that Kahlil must remain in the United States to preserve the court's jurisdiction as the court considers his case. A hearing for the case is scheduled in federal court on Wednesday. Other protesters have assembled in New York City to demand his release. Pennsylvania Democrat U.S. Rep. Summer Lee also came to his defense, asserting that anyone who hates Jews and America is somebody that he, as a Democrat, identifies with. So it appears that the federal law is rather clear about the support of terrorist organizations and their grounds for removal. When discussing inadmissible aliens, the law specifically includes any foreigner who endorses or espouses terrorist activity or attempts to persuade others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity and operate in support of a terrorist organization. And that, my friends, is exactly what he's been doing. How are you going to make America great again if you allow people that hate America and hate our allies to live here? And the answer is you cannot. The U.S. government has designated Hamas a foreign terrorist organization, and it's been that way for about 30 years. The group uses a variety of weaponry to advance attacks against Israeli military forces and civilians. Hamas engages in cyber espionage, computer network exploitation, and kidnapping and killing their victims. No matter how much the leftist anti-American protesters and lawmakers may complain, Kahlil does not belong in the United States if he's going to support these terrorist organizations. You see, if you're not a citizen, being in the United States is a privilege, not a right. Wasting this incredible opportunity of attending an Ivy League school and building a better life after graduation is incredibly foolish, but that's the way the Muslims are. They don't look long-term. All they know is that in order to support the Quran and their religion, they must kill the infidel where they find him. The last thing the United States needs is the importation and continued presence of such people that are coming here to do that. The deportation should send a message to the rest of the country that's coming here for such activities, especially in support of clearly designated terrorist organizations. You cannot do this. And I'm saying, all right, go Trump, go Doge. Now this. You know, mostly I don't trust these pollsters, and I certainly don't trust anything in the mainstream media, and that, my friends, is why you listen to Freedom 1300 right here in the Golden Triangle. But the Democrat-dominated establishment has spent 9 years telling you lies about who Donald Trump is, and they've never apologized for any of their lies. The propaganda campaign has had a twofold effect. On one hand, it has radicalized the leftist anti-American Democrats to a degree not seen since the 1850s. Remember when they created the KKK. On the other hand, it has shown the president's resilience as well as his enduring popularity among those who long ago recognized that the anti-Trump propaganda originated with some of America's most corrupt yet powerful institutions. In NBC, for instance, Nothing But Crap, they published a poll on Sunday, and according to them, Donald Trump has earned a 47% job approval rating, tying the mark he achieved in that poll only twice during his first administration, thereby proving once again that the Democrats' petulance and fear-mongering have had a limited effect on the American public beyond their own leftist anti-American base. To tell you the truth, I'm pretty sure that job approval rating is pretty close to 77%, but Nothing But Crap, they have a tendency to oversample Democrats. Now that's interesting, because if you got 47% of the Democrats supporting Donald Trump, that says a lot. What they never told you was that when Joe Biden was president, he had the lowest approval rating of any president in the history of taking polls on presidents. Anyway, as we've repeatedly seen through multiple election cycles, most national pollsters do lean heavily left. Consider, however, this poll's history. In October of 2018 and in February 2020, Donald Trump earned an approval rating that high in his first term. Likewise, 40% of responders in the latest poll characterized the nation as headed in the right direction. This number has not been seen since George Bush's second term, Bush 43, back in 2004. This marks a whopping 17-point increase since November. That's huge. Leftist Democrat pollster George Horwitz of Hart Research Associations, who helped conduct the poll, summarized the findings. While his survey shows a mixed result for Donald Trump, he said, Democrats are the ones that are in the wilderness right now. Well, of course they're in the wilderness right now. And why are they in the wilderness? Because their Marxist, leftist polls and leanings do not match those of Americans. So that's huge. The mixed result for Trump requires the context. After all, his job approval rating, right direction, wrong track results, as well as his personal favorability rating, represent all-time highs in the NBC poll. Moreover, anyone who has paid attention to public affairs for the last 9 years know that the left-leaning pollsters occasionally cook the books in order to advance their narrative. On Wednesday, for instance, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen predicted that this very thing would happen by the weekend. Someone is going to drop Trump minus 10 approval into the Real Clear Politics aggregate by Friday and flip it to a negative for the weekend news cycle. Well, sure enough, reliably left-leaning pollster Quinnipiac then dropped a poll showing Trump's approval rating at a negative minus 11, and that poll had the exact effect on the Real Clear polling aggregate that Mitchell had predicted. These guys are so predictable. They only have so many plays in their playbook, and, well, they're all bad and they're all lies. In other words, pollsters can and do engage in shenanigans. Somebody said once again, numbers don't lie, but reporters and pollsters do. Meanwhile, a parallel story here involves Horwitz's decision and assertion that the Democrats find themselves in the wilderness. Don't misinterpret that word. It does not mean, for instance, that the Democrats have softened their attitude or their approach toward Trump. If anything, it means the exact opposite. A Sunday CNN poll showed the Democrat Party had sunk to unprecedented depths of unpopularity. A lot of this perhaps due to their reaction to Donald Trump's address of Congress. But only 29% of respondents printed a favorable view of Democrats. It's the lowest since they've been polling in 1992. This is a huge, big deal. The devil lies in the details, of course, and CNN, it could be working for the devil, described the precipitous decline as fueled in part by dimming views from its own frustrated supporters. On the question of whether Democrats should work with Republicans now to try to save America, well, only 42% of Democrats wanted to save America. The rest of them want us to become part of this one-world globalist government under a benevolent dictator. So the establishment has filled Democrat voters' heads with so much anti-Trump propaganda, they now prefer the destruction of America to Donald Trump's success. Well, you see how this is going. I would end this with Maranatha. Thank you, Michael Schwartz, the Western Journal, for that one. Now, it has come to my attention that you are not telling your friends about Freedom 1300 here in Beaumont in the Golden Triangle, and we desperately need you to do that. So right now, I need you to get on your phone and text as many of your friends as possible and let them know that Freedom 1300 is no longer a conjunto radio station, that we are doing Christian conservative talk right here on Freedom 1300. And we need your friends here, because the best way for us to save Texas and America is via Freedom 1300. So we're going to start right here in the Golden Triangle, and I'm asking you right now to call all of your friends and tell them about Freedom 1300.
Study that was done in the 1960s, and it was really commissioned by NASA because they wanted to know how to hire more geniuses. So they hired George Land and his team to go out and figure out, like, what makes a genius. So they started with a group of 5-year-olds, and they gave them a creativity test. So the way they defined genius was, how do you use your creative imagination to solve problems? And what they found was, of this group of 5-year-olds, 98% qualified as geniuses. Then they came back 5 years later when this group was 10 years old, and it was down to 30%. 5 years later at 15, it was down to 12%. And then I think they just kind of gave up in disgust. But George Land took it further and went out and surveyed adults and found that only 2% of adults. And the thing that's also very interesting is he attributed this to school, 100% to school, that you would take a population, 98% genius, and dumb them down to 2%. And one of his quotes that I love is he said, uncreative behavior and thinking is learned.
The Department of Education was created for the express purpose of creating a working class of people that would not be able to think for themselves, people that would not be able to understand politics for themselves. The goal was to create a working class. Well, they succeeded in that. The only problem is that these people were supposed to be easily led, and the truth is they're so anti-Christ rebellious that they can't be led either. But the Department of Education has utterly destroyed America, and we are seeing the results of it now. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.